ABC Wednesday.
I'm Joan, and I'm your first Golden Bachelorette.
Joan's getting a second chance.
This is about everybody like me, navigating, trying to find love at this age.
I wouldn't be here if I didn't have hope.
Because love never ages.
Golden age doesn't mean you're old. Old is a state of mind, like a lot of living to do.
The Golden Bachelorette. Series premiere Wednesday on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Now, back to the Larry Kudlow Show.
So I want to talk some more about the economic impact of the proposed tax hikes from Vice President Kamala Harris and focus on this study from the Tax Foundation, which is really devastating and has not gotten near enough visibility. We're bringing on my great pal, Michael Faulkender, former Assistant Secretary of the Treasury. He's the AFPI Chief Economist. He teaches finance at the University of Maryland. Mike, thanks for this. You know, you were on with Scott Hodge on the TV show. I went back and looked at the actual study, which is quite detailed. And the Tax Foundation is a good shop. It's right of center, and it scores conventionally, and then it scores dynamically on economic impact. But I'll just read this. Higher taxes aimed at businesses and high earners on a gross basis. This is unbelievable. We estimate that Vice President Harris's proposals would increase taxes by about $4.1 trillion. $4.1 trillion. We estimate the proposed tax changes would reduce long-run GDP by 2%, the capital stock by 3%, wages by 1.2%, and then the absolute killer, employment would fall by 786,000. Now, it's too bad Mr. Trump didn't have those data points, or maybe he would have used them, maybe not. But you know a lot about this stuff. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think it's entirely on par with what I would expect given the scale of what Vice President Harris is proposing, because there seems to be this notion of many on the left that taxes will go up and there'll be no economic consequences. But of course, we know that they will change their behavior. The people that have capital right now, they will reallocate it or they'll have it sit on unproductive activities, because if you were to double capital gains, which is what Vice President Harris is proposing to do, then we know that what's going to happen is that investors will keep their money in the existing assets rather than realizing them and allocating them towards something more productive. If you have capital stay doing unproductive things rather than it being reallocated towards more productive things, you lower growth, you lower wages, you lower employment, and you're going to have negative implications on GDP, right? And the other thing that I think, Larry, is that we discussed earlier this week that I want to reiterate is the National Federation of Independent Businesses, the group that represents small businesses, surveyed their members and said, if these were to go into effect, what would you do? And a significant percentage of them said that they would either cut employment or not give increases in wages. And then the biggest thing is they would pass it along in the form of higher prices. So this idea that only investors bear the cost of increases in direct taxes through the tax rate on small businesses or indirectly through capital gains tax rates is just false. It, of course, is going to get passed on. We saw that after TCJA. Why did we get employment growth? Why did we get such high real wage growth? Why did household real income go up by $7,000 in the first 3 years of the Trump administration? It's because when you reduce taxes on capital, you give the ability of corporations to expand their activities. You get more productive investments that passes through to wages, and they're able to keep prices low.
Mike Faulkender, what's the real GDP now? It's about 25, 26 trillion? What is it?
Yeah, it's in the 26 trillion range.
26. So a 2% drop, let's see, so 10% would be is that a $4 trillion drop, or is that too much? Am I overestimating?
10% drop would be 200 billion.
Oh, 200 billion. So it'd be a 400 billion.
Sorry, yeah.
It would
400 billion drops. All right. 1% of 26 trillion is 260 billion. So 2% would be about 500
All right, so it'd be a $500 billion drop in national income and almost an 800,000 drop in jobs. I mean, that stuff's got to see the light of day. These are huge numbers.
That's right. And Larry, we already have a private sector economy that's largely in recession. If you look at the job growth, if you look at the economic growth, it is largely coming from government-funded activities. It's healthcare, it's social services, and it's directly in government. It's not manufacturing, it's not mining, it's not IT, it's not business services, it's not the private sector activity. And the idea that what we need is even further discourage private sector activity also that you can then grow government. Because it's not like this money that the vice president raises is going to be used for deficit reduction. They're going to just spend it. And so then it comes back to just the standard question that we ask all the time. Who is in a better position to allocate capital? Is it the government meeting all of these massive unmet needs in the economy, or is it the private sector that's in a better position to identify the unmet needs of their fellow Americans?
So, I didn't realize this exactly. I should have, but I was a Wall Street Journal editorial during the Trump years. Now, this is pre-pandemic, because obviously 2020, lots of government spending to substitute for the collapse of the private economy, to temporarily substitute. But the point I'm making is Trump's spending was 20% of GDP. This is federal spending, 20% of GDP, which is on the 50-year average, which is about the same, okay? Biden's 25%. That means off the charts. Right. We're running out of time, but that was off the charts. I didn't even realize that.
And CBO says that it's going to be 23 to 24 as far as the eye can see.
Which is inflationary. Anyway, Michael Faulkender, thank you ever so much. So we always run short of time. Senator Kevin Cramer is going to come on and talk about oil after this.
Janine Pirro here for Colonial Metals Group. Colonial Metals Group helps Americans protect their future with the most trusted store of wealth in human history, physical gold and silver. If you're retiring or retired, go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/Pirro for your free Janine Pirro Colonial Metals Group Retirement Protection Kit, or call 800-965-8004. 800-965-8004 now to receive a free home safe and up to $7,500 in free silver.